This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, FreakyLinks, episodes 3 and 4.
Do you ever stop and think once about how what you do affects other people?
Wait, do you mean you?
Yeah. Me.
Well, I thought that you were part of the team.
Team implies structure, Derek. It implies discipline. Your idea of a plan is to come to New York, crash my hotel room, crawl around under the city, and get arrested. You do everything like a surfer. You see a wave, you climb on. Somebody in front of you, plow right through them.
I'm on a story.
A story? Alligators under the sewers? Derek, come on.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast for internet conspiracy nuts. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
That was pretty good. It was succinct.
Very succinct.
Yeah.
This week, we're joined by a guest. Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Very excited. Longtime fan.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
I have not
aboard.
listened to it nearly enough. Sorry. I've dipped my toes in the water and I really like it. But
I was hoping you would just end with like, I have not listened.
Big fan. I have not listened.
yeah, this is one of those instances where I do this. Like I take it back.
We're now revoking what was just said.
We're off to a great start.
Well, Joe, why? Let me rephrase that.
Why would you ever come on this podcast was the question.
So, Joe, what is your history with science fiction television? Are you a fan? Is this something you were a fan of before, or are you kind of new to the genre?
Oh no, I'm definitely not new to it. I have memories of coming back from preschool back when I lived in Oshawa. But the only shows that were available to watch after that time, while my mom was cooking dinner or whatever, and my sister was trying to just hurl toys at me, were Adam West Batman.
Okay.
And that was followed by very, very old episodes of Doctor Who. And that kind of really informed my taste, I think, from that point forward, and the after-school programming from that point on.
Did you ever understand the Doctor Who episodes? Because I watched them when I was a kid too, and all I remember is he had curly hair, because I think it was the 70s Doctor.
And the
scarf.
yeah.
But I didn't know what was happening. I was like, oh, he's going through somewhere. But I would watch it, but I have no...
I had no clue either, and that's why when they brought it back, in the early aughts, it was triggering for me. I was like, did I watch this before? I feel like I didn't. And then the Daleks came. I was like, yeah, I very much remember this. I don't like it. I am very disturbed. But
so you didn't stick around for the new Doctor?
A few seasons, I think, with
right.
What's his face, Matt
LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Can you
Was
imagine?
Is he in it?
I was going to say Matt Frewer, but that was also wrong.
The American remake. Yeah. It's just the entire cast of Friends. They cycle those as the Doctor.
They each get to be the Doctor.
Yeah. The Ross season was rough.
I have seen one episode of Doctor Who, part of it anyway, and I think it's a newer one. I just didn't understand it, so I moved on. And then the only other recollection I have is sometime when I was a kid, they rebooted an American Doctor Who, but it was only a pilot. Really? And I just remember watching it, and I was like, "Oh, this is weird." And then there's just no more of them because it was a single TV movie.
And it wasn't Matt LeBlanc, right?
Not that I remember, but maybe 14-year-old Matt LeBlanc.
I'll look it up.
They were trying something.
So I guess then that means you've been watching science fiction for quite a while.
Oh yeah, and I was raised in a Trek family, so very also clear memories of being out on my bike outdoors with friends playing and being active, and then having to bail right at 7:00 because if I wasn't home for TNG, my family's gonna be pissed.
You're getting a spanking.
Wow, that's different. I don't remember my parents being terribly supportive of me needing to get home to watch.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
I
my upbringing.
actually remember throwing a bit of a fit in the car, being like, "We got to get home. It's almost time." And they'd be like, "What's wrong with you? Who cares? It's not real." That's my dad was always like, "It's not real." He'd always tell me that anytime we were typing. He's like, "None of this is real." And I remember once watching something and two people were kissing, and my dad said, "You know that's not real kissing." And what he was meaning to tell me was this is all like it's all make believe.
Yeah.
But what I thought was that's not what it really looks when people
no.
kiss. And I was very nervous that when it's my time to kiss someone, I'm not going to know what to do because I only know what they do on TV, which is a lot of moving heads.
Yeah. Why would everyone lie about
Yeah.
this?
Why would they lie?
What is the secret?
I mean, some of the shows we've watched, I don't think those were good examples of how you kiss either.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We've seen some pretty bad kissing in these shows.
Yeah.
I also like the idea that your dad's just telling you none of this is real, but not just about television. It's just like everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere.
None of this is real. Building disorder in your mind.
Yeah. I don't know why why point that out to a child?
All right. Well, let's get back on topic. Have you seen FreakyLinks before? Were you aware of this show?
So when I looked it up on IMDb and saw Ethan Embry, I had just a sparkle of remembrance there.
Some lost memory.
It's ringing a bell, but no, I didn't watch it. At that time, I was probably watching Buffy or Roswell might have been around the
I think
same
that's
time.
probably a very similar time period. Absolutely.
Yeah. We were
Both probably better shows.
I mean, they were certainly, I think, more slanted towards maybe a teen girl audience.
That is
Right.
true. Although,
Yeah.
don't you find Ethan Embry's character irresistible? Everyone else does.
He's so charming.
Yeah.
Not really.
Well, before we get into it, I just want to quickly clarify something because last week we weren't sure if the website for FreakyLinks existed anymore.
Mhm.
I had read some things that said it was offline now, but it is in fact on Haxton, the production company's website. They still have it completely archived and functional.
What?
Yeah, both Luke and I found it and talked about it earlier because we both found I went through it. Did you go through all the little links? and
I've
everything?
clicked through a bunch of it. I figure we can dig into it a little more. I do like there's like little pieces from all these episodes. So I didn't go into it too deeply, but I did check it out, see most of it's functioning. There's some like crazy stuff on there. Like they're selling things, but not in a store. They're just like recommending movies to you.
Yeah, it's odd.
But you click through and it takes you to Amazon to buy that movie.
It's not as bad as you would think. Like it's still the little flash or whatever video.
Yeah, the
they're
flash
using, that
player.
still works and everything. So
It's like the Space Jam website.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
never been taken down.
is that right?
Yeah, you can still go on.
Well, I think it was taken down because they don't have the domain anymore.
Oh.
But the production company kept it running in the back end of their site. I think it's just like a little archival piece.
Yeah.
But it's very funny because my Chrome browser, I had to turn on Flash so I could go there, and now it won't stop warning me that it's discontinuing Flash in December 2020. I'm like, that's the end of the FreakyLinks
That's the end
website.
of that.
What?
You only got another year and a half to get to the FreakyLinks website.
So get to it, fans, freak fans, whatever they called the shows, fans.
They said in this episode he called them freakers,
Oh, freakers.
but in the first episode, and I forgot to note it, he referred to his fans as the Whack Pack in the first episode.
I like. Oh no, that's way better. The Whack Pack
Whack
is way
Pack
better
for
than the
sure.
freakers.
And I also was just like, yeah, Whack Pack was the way to go.
Yeah, Whack Pack.
All right, Joe. Are you ready to get into this? Are you ready to start these 2 episodes?
Let's
Yeah,
dive in.
we're all Whack Packs.
We're ready
I'm ready to whack.
Let's all get ready to whack, everybody.
Huh.
That's what
Interesting.
this podcast is now.
Oh, gross.
Here is the IMDb summary for episode 3. Subject: Edith Keeler must die. A guy in an Edith Keeler must die shirt, bracket, a reference to a Star Trek The Original Series classic episode, City on the Edge of Tomorrow, and bracket, claims that, quote, mole people live in New York's subway tunnels and are behind the recent attacks on the city. That's it. That's the summary.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
I mean, sure, why not? I like that they explained the reference in the title.
I'm very
Yeah.
glad they did.
I know. I wouldn't have known otherwise either.
I didn't look it up.
I made a note to Google it and then I didn't Google it, which
I
would
was
have
too
been
busy
just
on the
as easy.
FreakyLinks website.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, that man in the Edith Keeler shirt, must die shirt, is in it for total 15 seconds.
Yeah, if that.
He flies by in a second.
Yeah.
At any rate, this week's Freaky Link, it sort of starts off with a little bit of news footage bloopers, which I know is a huge genre fan. Or Jordan's a huge genre fan of
Yeah,
that.
this was clearly not real though. You know, I've seen better.
Like
You've seen
even
better
her
bloopers.
stumbling is
Yeah.
very much rehearsed.
Yeah, like I want like her throwing up and stuff on camera.
We're watching, I guess, a New York weather person. She's doing a on location report, and in the background of the shot, a man sort of falls over. I guess he gets pulled into a sewer is what we come to learn, but it kind of looks like he does just fall down. And that we sort of pull out from this like found footage piece to Derek, Jason, and Lan watching the video while enjoying an anchovy pizza. Because I guess Derek's also a Ninja Turtle of some sort.
Yeah, my note was his team seems to just feed him. He's such a loser who likes anchovies. That was the note I made to myself.
And also, I like while they're watching it, the power goes out because he doesn't pay his power bill. But the computer also does. They're just like, but the good thing this computer has backup power. Then the Mac's all glowing. And I'm just like, I'm so confused.
I love when they have to add lines of dialogue in there that just fix a problem that no one really worried about. And it's like, but you made that problem. Like, just don't have the power go out. Then you don't need to add that other line about how you have a generator. Then you have to have another line about how where you bought it from. And I was like, who cares? It doesn't matter.
No such thing as batteries in 2001.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, they came out in 2002.
Right.
I guess maybe it's battery powered. I have no idea. I was like, is this a special function that I was like, is this an ad for Macs? I wasn't sure. Like, did Mac suddenly have a power function in 2000 that you're like, oh, it keeps running? At any rate, what this kind of sets off is because this attack happened in New York, they've got to head to New York City to solve this freaky link. But of course, they're quite fortunate because Chloe, who teased us in the last episode that she had to go to New York to present a psychology paper or psychiatry paper, one of these things.
One of those, yeah.
She's in New York and she's presenting her paper. Do you remember the paper's about?
I do. Do you?
Internet addiction and the effect on social deviant behavior.
Pretty close.
You are like almost on the money with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much I guess, idea that maybe Derek is a social deviant.
Unrelated. Did I ever tell you that I was watching a documentary once about video game addiction and how it was ruining some people's life? And then at one point while I was watching the documentary, I knew one of the guys that was on it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and about, like, it was just a guy I met, like, kind of passing, and he was one of the people that were like, my life is falling apart because I can't stop playing video games. I was like, hey, look, it's that guy.
I know him.
I know him.
Hate it.
Anyways, and you know what he was doing when I met him? Play video games. Yeah, it makes sense. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, this public deviant thing kind of transitions into the Freaky Link gang all showing up out of nowhere at her hotel in New York to kind of investigate this sewer snatching, what they think is might be alligators in the sewers. And I got to say, you didn't get to see the first 2 episodes, I don't believe.
No. And I debated it, and I thought it'd be more fun to go in blind and ask a lot of questions about things that I found very confusing.
Well, you're not wrong to not have watched the first 2.
Great.
Yeah.
But I will say, Derek in this episode seems to have become unhinged.
I don't know what the writers are trying to, or his performance, what they're trying to get across. Is it that he's cool? Is it that he's a slacker? Is it that he's like an everyman? Because he just comes across to me like an annoying loser. I just find him to be annoying every time. It's like they're hinging the show on him, and I was like, I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
I mean, when he walked into the hotel, his eyes were just bugging out of his head. He was just eating a container of French fries. And people were talking to him, but he didn't seem to be like engaging or understanding. I was just like, I don't know what's happened. He seems to have lost his mind.
Well, and that's my entry point to this guy, too. Aside from his like little spiel about fancy food being served on a bed of rice.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Which-
That's right. No, it was that he always says that. If there's one thing we know about expensive food, it always comes on a bed of something.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great theory. What a
Yeah.
freaky link.
Yeah.
Let's put that up. Debate. But yeah, he was like so high energy, like he had just eaten a full bag of candy and then wandered in.
I think what they were trying to do, and it's sort of the B plot of this whole episode, is that Chloe, which you may not know, was his twin brother who died. That's his fiance.
Fiance.
Yeah, but he died. Maybe killed himself. We don't know. He lit a lot of candles.
It's a little
is all you need to
freaky.
know. It was a little freaky, and the whole point, obviously, is that she doesn't feel like they're a little bit young and stupid, and she wants to move on with her life. And there's this like push and pull of her responsibilities versus her feelings or whatever it might be. And I think because of that, they've upped the weirdness of Derek's character.
To give her something to push back
To
Something to
against.
push you guys, but it seems out of the ordinary even for a character where we haven't really established what he's like. We know he's kind of a loser,
Yeah.
but this is like he might have like some sort of I can't say it. He might have some sort of disorder. Just cut
Well,
that.
All of us are sidestepping
Yeah.
words here.
I will say, because this is the closest. There's a moment in here where Jason, Derek, and Lan, like the core Freaky Links team, are in the hotel room watching an old movie that's like about a reptile attacking a city. So like the idea that alligators are under New York. And as they were doing it, I realized I'm like, Oh, is the idea that they're just stoned all the time?
Oh.
Because they were sitting there
It looked like that.
laughing and eating snacks. And I'm like, that would explain a lot if the idea was now there's just like these are just a bunch of stoners who like wander around with cameras. And that would make a lot more sense to me.
Well,
Yeah.
it almost felt like they were trying to do a thing where it was an episode from Chloe's perspective, where it could have been everything's heightened and everything's weird, but that's not what they did. Like, you'd been like, oh, I get it. It's that kind of... I mean, the X-Files did that in episode 2, where it's from the other people's point of view and everything's exaggerated, but no, it's just they're all weirder in this episode because they're not as much in the next one.
That's
No.
true. That's interesting, actually. I wonder if that is the case if...
I think it's giving too much.
Well, we found out... I mean, it's probably even a bit of credit. We did find out they rewrote these episodes a bit to try to like add some comedy to them after they were sort of half produced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, originally it was just straight dark, supposed to be scary show, and then someone went, that's not going to work. Let's just add funny scenes in. So they rewrote and reshot a bunch of stuff, and now it's this weird mishmash, and that's
Yeah.
what this show is, where you're
Well, I
like,
was gonna say it's a lot funnier than I was expecting. But when did this air? Like what time?
oh, I can tell you when it aired. It originally there was 3 shows. It was supposed to air at 8 p.m. on a Friday night, and Fox had 2 shows, and they were FreakyLinks and Night Visions, which I don't know if anyone remembers. But they had a choice of which one to play on because they had a new show called World's Wildest Police Videos, which was being a huge hit. So they had to bump one of them. They bumped Night Visions, and so the lineup was World's Wildest Police Videos at 8, and FreakyLinks played at 9 on Fridays.
All right.
That tracks.
Yeah, but both of them, they all got canceled,
Also
except for
suck at
Wildest
Night
Police
Visions.
Videos. I think that's
Except
still
that-
going.
That's just YouTube now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I think to your point that like maybe this episode is a little bit from Chloe's perspective in that there's another character that kind of comes and he's like a psychologist who knew her and her old boyfriend, and he's like a bit of flirty with her. Like at some point he's like, sorry I hit on you so hard after he committed suicide.
Yeah.
Like it's
Calm down, Wayne.
yeah,
Jeez.
Wayne's really going for it.
However, I'm gonna defend. Is his name Wayne? Is that his name?
It's Wayne,
I'm gonna
yeah.
defend Wayne a little bit because we're as a viewer supposed to hate him immediately, just because he's wearing a suit. He's done nothing. You get the implication. Yes, he hit on someone in a.
He's
not
apologizing well though.
Yes, he did apologize, even though he knew he did something very stupid, which it clearly was. But for the rest of the episode, the Derek character's like, look at this jerk off. I'm like, he hasn't done anything, and he tries to help them and everything. He didn't do anything wrong. He just happens to look like a classic like villain from a 1980s movie.
Yeah.
but
Well,
he didn't do anything wrong.
I was like, this is a Shooter McGavin.
Yeah.
Like, this is just from an Adam Sandler movie. He's the bad guy because he's handsome and in a suit.
Yeah, that's exactly what this
Saying
is.
things like, I hope not too impenetrable.
Wow, you know what's funny? You mentioned that. What's his face's character, Ethan Embry's character, Derek, is very much like an Adam Sandler character in this episode.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I will also give something to Wayne too. When they're introduced and he's like, oh, this is my ex-husband or ex-fiance's brother Derek. He's running the website. It's called FreakyLinks, and he's like, FreakyLinks. What is that? Some sort of internet sausage company?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And I was thinking we should get the domain and start an internet sausage company called FreakyLinks. That's a great business.
Is it a great business?
I think so.
It's always about if you have the name first. Banks will give you any sort of loan. If you get that person, the bank loan person, they laugh. They're like, links, I get it. Sausages. Yeah, you can have all the money you want.
Dude, straight to the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of sets up what the tug is in this episode is like, is Chloe going to kind of go into this psychiatric world where she's been training for a long time and, you know, where people clearly like her and think she's quite respected there? Or is she going to kind of go along with Derek on this like wild adventures with the FreakyLinks team?
Yeah.
With poor Jason, who still barely gets lines.
Literally throw herself in the gutter.
By the way, I because Luke mentioned it in the last podcast episode that Jason doesn't get any lines and he just walks around.
None.
So I marked the time code when he had his first line. 12 minutes and 53 seconds into the episode was his first line. And he was in all the scenes up to that point.
Oh my God.
We're just calling him wallpaper at this point.
He is almost in every scene.
Yeah.
They just allow him nothing to do or nothing to speak. He's just there.
They actually should just do something like just have him like in the background like playing with yo-yos and stuff, and that just like it just can get more and more odd the things he's doing in the background because he just has nothing to do. But I don't think the show is that good a sense of
and
humor.
like when they're looking for him later in the episode, I remember I was painting my room when I did my first round of this. It's not a great show to just listen to if you're distracted and on a chair.
You're like, I don't hear Jason at all.
Oh, I hear Jason. I hear Ethan Embry screaming, Jason, like 18 times in 2 minutes.
You're a character, right, Jason?
Jason just stares blankly, not answering.
At any rate, the gang kind of kicks off the plot here because they want to kind of find out what happened with this guy who fell into the sewer. They crash a Good Morning America style live TV show where that weather woman is giving her like weather report outside. They all hold up signs that say what happened to the man in the sewer.
You make fun, but it works.
It works. She chats with them and kind of says, I don't really know what happened. My boss thinks I faked it. And we kind of go into what you've seen in this next episode is coming. I think it's a bit of the structure of the show is they do this like POV interview footage of where they interview a bunch of randos around the city.
Yeah.
In this case, it was some guy in that shirt. There was a weird homeless man. There's like a bunch of weird New Yorkers they interview.
Well, it's funny because they do this, but you never really get any information.
Well, what I think they're doing, and I'm going to defend it.
Okay, I know what I'm. Okay, I'll let you go. I know what you think they're doing. I'm going to disagree because I think they're just wasting time.
It's a way of like laying out all the potential theories of what they're going to investigate. Because basically every person they talk to gives them another theory. Like the three theories are, it's alligators, it's mole people, or it's mental patients Ronald Reagan let loose in the 80s.
I did not catch that one.
are the possibilities of what's happening, and I like it because it's sets up three possible red herrings. And also, it's very quick. I don't have to like hear too much exposition. They don't have to do a lot. It's just like bang, bang, bang. One of these things is going to happen.
I would have liked if the fourth option was it's also just Ronald Reagan.
He's still down there.
He's just down there.
I mean, it would make as much sense, I guess.
I think he was dead at this point, wasn't he? Was he dead by 2000?
2000?
Doesn't really matter.
Joe, you're a historian about American
you
presidents.
love Reagan.
He's definitely in the sewer. That's my vote.
But yeah, I mean, basically, it's all a setup to like set up what our expectations are, and then they finally do go into the sewers themselves, and what they like meet a bunch of street kids down there.
Sort of like Free Willy style. It's just there's this whole subculture of sewer teens.
It's funny
They're
because
very
I
clean,
thought
too.
Ninja
Yeah.
Turtle style, like the movie Ninja Turtles, where they were all pickpockets.
Yeah.
I guess depends on what you were watching at the time, what these little homeless children remind you of.
Every generation has their
Yes, that's
subset
right.
of homeless children in the.
They were like they all looked like teenage models. They were like the least convincing children.
Well, it's because they were stealing designer clothing.
They did have very nice clothes on.
And a lot of hair gel too.
Yeah.
My favorite name though one of them was named Bink.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Great.
real tough guy, Bink.
Bink was a real tough guy. I also noticed this comes up a few times through it. One of them seems to be a rapist.
Super rapey.
Whoa. Is there? What? I don't remember that.
Oh yeah.
Well, when they first catch the FreakyLinks team down there and they steal their camera, and they're like, give us back our camera. And one of them is just like looks at Lan. She's like, we'll take her instead.
Yeah, he says something like a little piece of this one.
Oh, geez. I don't remember that. I must be
Yeah.
painting my room, too.
And then
I didn't catch it when I was painting.
And then later, Chloe will interview that same one in a jail cell.
And he says, if my hands weren't tied to this chair.
It was insane. I'm like, who is this monster you've got? Like, he should be in prison.
Yeah.
No, he should be in the sewer. He's a monster. Like Ronald Reagan.
But yeah, there's kind of this sewer thing. We get to talk to these street kids. We find out all the street kids stay out of tunnel 14.
Yep.
Because there's always a weird tapping down there.
Which tunnel again?
14?
One more time?
Is it 14?
Okay.
14?
I didn't quite get it from the episode either
Yeah.
when they said it.
It's very
14.
important because we get so much geography of under the ground. Like we can really tell where we are at any given moment. So it's important for us to know which tunnel they're in. But while they're down there, also the cops have a tunnel raid. They're
the
all
usual.
arrested immediately.
Yeah.
Let me make one little note before that. Right before this, it shows they're eating rats, and for no reason, Derek grabs the barbecued rat and begins eating it too. My question is, why?
All of it. Why?
Why? Because one, I don't think they'd be barbecuing rats down there. They're clearly stealing stuff. They could probably steal some food. And even if they were barbecuing rats, was he trying to ingratiate himself into the society so that he could be undercover? There's no reason for him to eat this rat other than, isn't he a crazy, kooky guy? Don't you love him?
I think this is something
So
I was wondering
gross.
about, and I didn't look into it. Is Jackass popping at this point?
Oh, maybe. You think this is sort of like a, can you believe it? We can put this in a commercial?
Well, I'm kind of wondering if, because they don't know who his character is clearly. Like sometimes he's one thing, sometimes he's another. Sometimes but they're like, they're trying to make him that cool guy with the camera all the time. And I'm wondering if like, is this like, are they trying to like, maybe they're like, maybe we give him a little Johnny Knoxville. Like he eats a weird rat. Like maybe that will make you like him.
Maybe.
Kids. Like it just seems like they're trying to find stuff like, kids, you like this, right?
I just hope it just gets more and more desperate. He just keeps trying more and more stuff. What if I do blackface? Like, no, don't do that.
No.
Work for Al Jolson.
What else can you eat?
At any rate, they're all arrested in the sewers. Chloe and Wayne have to leave the conference to bail them out. And this is kind of where Derek and Chloe kind of get in their big fight. It's a bit low stakes, but just like, who are you choosing? The upper crust Ivory Leaguers or us, the sewer people, your sewer friends?
I ate rat today.
But again, it was a weird episode to put as the third episode because we haven't really established by episode 3 what her relationship is with the team because they haven't still decided what Chloe is. Because in episode 1, it was like, she might be like a tough kind of action girl. And then by episode 2, they're just like, no, she's just pretty. And then by episode 3, it's like, she's
the brains.
She's the brains. It's
Yeah.
like, so this episode, maybe it would have worked better if it was like episode 10 or so. But, you know, what's
It's
like
a good season cliffhanger. Will Chloe stay
Will Chloe stay?
or hurl herself into a manhole?
Yeah. where he's eating a rat.
There you go. I mean, essentially, they drive a wedge between them briefly here, which is basically leads to them like, well, we better go get our van since we can't stay at our hotel anymore. And of course, since they're so irresponsible, the van's been towed. They have to take the subway to get to the impound lot to get the van out. And there's this whole conversation about, well, we don't have any money. How are we going to get this van out of there?
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm pointing because I know where this is
Go
going.
ahead.
Well, and all of a sudden, Lon pulls out like a wad of cash and is accused of moonlighting. And I don't know if we ever found out for what.
It was very weird. And also, like, they don't pay her and they're upset with her for, like, needing to work to survive.
Yeah. How dare you, Lon?
I assume she did tech support.
That seems accurate.
I mean, that's probably pretty likely. She seems to know a lot of people. She seems pretty connected, actually.
She's one of the few people in that team who has it together.
Who, has some sort of sense to her.
Yeah.
But I also note that while they're discussing how they have no money, this is one of Jason Stu's lines. He's like, "We got no money, but at least we got Warren G. Harding's finger in that bag back home."
Yeah. And no, but then the joke is she says, it's not his finger.
Yeah, it's his dick.
Yeah.
They got his dick in a bag.
Yeah. And that's what he spent his money on.
Jason, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Quality
Glad you came
line.
out.
You don't talk often, but when you do.
You can just see the actor is just flipping through the script. He's like, where am I? Oh, come on, guys.
But yeah, this whole thing is basically to get them into a subway tunnel. So as they come off the train, they say Bink, who is holding their camera, still with their camera, running off down a subway tunnel.
Bink.
And they sort of take off after him to like try to get back their camera, their stolen property. And I like they run out of the tunnel and they're like, they lose and they're like, let's split up. And they like split up for 4 seconds. Like they walk away from each other and then they turn a corner and bump into each other again. They're like, oh thank God, it was too scary without you. I was like, that was the weirdest split up I've ever seen.
And what do they find? By the way, I wrote Mink, not Bink, but that's just my note that his name is Mink.
I can't tell which name is tougher.
Yeah. Anyways, they find Bink or Mink or whatever his name is, and his face is being bitten away. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Something ate his face. But they get their camera back, so
That's the important thing.
he was just street trash.
That's your new line of everything. You're always just like, yeah, you're just street trash.
But yes, they kind of go. They're like, hey, we better go tell someone about this murdered street kid. They bring Wayne since he's cop down there, but obviously the kid's missing, and Wayne's sort of like, don't listen to these crazy people, Chloe. You need to focus on your craft.
But let me make the point. Wayne took time out of his schedule and went down into the sewer. So he's a jerk, but he's being nice enough to come down and try to help them.
He is trying to help. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm being too mean
Point
to Wayne.
Wayne, sure.
Yeah.
Point Wayne.
And to be fair, when they're down there, he's like, there's nothing down here, guys. So I came down here in my $3,000 suit for this crap. No one's face is even being eaten away.
But Chloe kind of believes them that they bumped into something, because while they were down there, they did see a crazy white-faced monster that chased them out of the sewers. And what we'll come to learn is a mole person.
So what were the options? What one was that?
Mental patients let loose by Ronald Reagan in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Alligators.
Yeah.
And mole people.
So it was option 3. It was mole people.
Yep.
I won't lie. I was hoping for alligators, but mole people do, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember there was a Japanese TV show called Bonsai, and it was a betting game?
I do remember that.
No.
We should future Freaky Links episodes when your talking head interviews happen. Bonsai it. Place money on what it actually is going to be.
Yeah,
Because I tell you, episode 4 threw me for a loop. I had
It's-
no clue where that was going. So
I will say it's working. The idea that like they lay out 3 possible weird suggestions and then they're like, well, it's this instead. I'm like, okay,
great.
it's working for me.
Yeah.
But they kind of go to a research montage now. They kind of look into mole people who communicate via echolocation.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important for mole people.
Hence the tapping.
They've been under New York City since before the city was built because they are an offshoot of humanity. They're cave people who never left the caves.
Yeah, it's all Hollow Earth crap. I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, but I guess what they kind of say is a hollow earther who was building a pneumatic train in the 1800s was attacked by them down there, and he kept like writing books about the hollow earth after that. I could have used more hollow earth information.
I was really into that actually because flat earthers now. But what are you doing building an underground train if you know this is a possibility?
Well, they leaned
That's a good
into
question.
in the other episode, the Roanoke colony. They leaned into that a lot more than they leaned into this. They sort of like haven't decided how much of these myths they're gonna kind of go into. But they were just like, I think it's enough that we just see they're mole people. I think that explains enough.
Yeah.
Look at his face. It's weird.
He's got a weird mole face.
Yeah, I do like that they're pale because they would be pale.
They would be. That just makes sense.
Yeah.
I honestly, the first time I saw them, I thought they were skeletons. I thought they were being menaced by skeletons underground, and I'm like, oh, they're people.
They're just pale.
I see. But yeah, this is kind of where they figure out this whole research thing. And during this research period, Chloe like pieces together that Lan's in love with Derek.
And then they push it hard.
She's kind of mean about it too.
Yeah. Well,
Very mean.
the actress who plays Chloe, she's always kind of smiling. I don't know if anyone knows. It's like every line she
Yeah.
does, she kind of smiles, and I guess that's a choice. But you're right. When she's kind of gently teasing Lan about it, is she teasing Lan about it?
She's teasing Lan
yeah,
about
because
it.
Lan in this episode, in the next episode, she teases Derek about it.
yeah.
But she's smiling the whole time, and I'm like, you look really mean.
Yeah.
doing
Yeah, it's
that.
a real sarcastic.
She's
Yeah.
just subtly undermining that whole potential relationship. Sneaky.
I would rather that than the weird relationship with her dead brothers. Like the
Yeah.
dead brother. I don't know. I can't tell if they're trying to set up a love triangle or if they're just like, or we're just like, I'm trained to be like, Chloe's the love interest.
I'll tell you what. Guaranteed, if there's a love triangle, who won't be in it? Jason.
Jason will just be standing nearby.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm here too.
Put your hand on the back of her head. Okay. Next. He gives pointers.
He's a real Cyrano de Bergerac.
But you don't hear them. He just leans over.
Yeah, he
and
just
frame.
leans them.
Yeah.
Poor Jason.
Anyway, they do this whole research montage, and if you were worried that Chloe wouldn't get a chance to present her paper, don't worry.
Yeah, she does.
They suddenly pause all the action. They're like, Lan, come with me to watch me present my paper at
In 15 minutes.
15 minutes. We must race across town. It also seems to be the middle of the night.
Chloe didn't make it. We just, in real life, she did not make it.
She didn't.
No.
She didn't know. It was too far to get to. But while they're kind of presenting this paper, Derek and Jason are like, well, let's go prepare to go under. They just like seem to be like, we're going to go into the sewers while you present the paper. And for what, like they open the sewer grate and then a mole person just walks by and grabs Jason as they're getting in. They're like, Jason's captured. He like puts one foot in the sewer and he's captured.
But is there a scene missing? Because Chloe and Lan are at
Yes, they leave to go to the presentation.
Yeah, they go to the presentation, and then you see Jason get captured, and then immediately they like have to run away. But I'm like, how did they know?
I think the YouTube edit is slightly off. I think we missed like a split second off the commercial break. Like they clearly cut a commercial out and left it. Because when you come back, she's in the middle of her presentation, and then they stand up and they run out. And I'm not sure. It might be the quality too. I'm wondering if maybe they had that because they all had headsets on.
Oh, maybe.
So
that's
I'm
what it was.
wondering if they could just hear him getting captured. But like, there seemed to be like a half a second where you caught how they knew, and I think it might have just been the YouTube clip we had.
But what it looks like is they're just suddenly giving a presentation. Went, sorry, gotta go. I just sense danger.
We gotta
Okay, thanks,
run.
bye.
Yeah.
But basically, what happens? They run out of there. Jason is being dragged away by mole people. Derek goes in the sewer to chase him down. And we kind of have this weird thing. Lan and Chloe have the maps. And they're giving him directions from above ground while he runs around below ground, which these walkie-talkies are amazing. They're going through the streets. And it's like a weird chase sequence. Like nothing, like they're just kind of giving directions. Finally, he finds another manhole underneath the ground, which I guess leads to this pneumatic train tunnel, I guess. And when he gets down there, he finds the injured Jason laying there. Lots of mole people everywhere. And because mole people have sensitive hearing, he just causes like feedback to happen with his mic.
Yeah.
The mole people scatter, and then it's just like another chase sequence where they're now running away from the mole people to get out of the sewers. And it's also like it all happens what feels like 4 minutes, but nothing necessarily really. It's just like a bunch of chase sequences, and they kind of basically escape with footage of mole people, and Freaky Link is solved.
Yeah, ta-da, the end.
We're gonna post this online. I like that they show it to Wayne at the end. They're like, Wayne, check out these mole people. And he's like, maybe. Yeah. He's like, they might be mole people. And they're like, can you talk to the cops about this? He's like, I don't know if I want to.
I have one nitpicky note. At the very beginning of this episode, where you watch the footage, the bloopers of the news, what you see in the background is someone walking over a grate and he's just grabbed.
Yeah.
It happens really fast. You're like, oh, those mole people are real fast, or alligators, whatever you think they are at that point. But the very end of the episode, the moles are the moles are chasing them, and they go up and they get through. Last second they get over the grate. They close the gate on the mole people, and Jason and Derek are like, oh, we did so well. And we're laughing, and they're on the grate. I'm like, why don't they just grab them through the grate?
Yeah,
they did it earlier. They clearly have that ability. Come on, guys,
moles, get it together.
Yeah. Anyway,
but I mean, this kind of wraps the episode. Is we get to see Chloe make her decision. She's like, they're like, come with us in our FreakyLinks van, and we'll do adventures. And Wayne's just like, why don't you hang out here with me? We'll go on a cool date. But she makes her choice.
Yeah,
the wrong one.
Chloe's in the mood for a road trip. She says,
and they drive away to the sounds of Cat Stevens. Nope.
Cat Power, Salty Dog. Cat Power, Salty Dog.
Very different end of the episode.
Very different episode. My version had Cat Stevens.
Yeah.
Cats in the cradle and the silver.
That's also not Cat Stevens.
We both got it wrong.
Well.
X. Take it out.
It's all gold.
And that's that. That was another glorious home run by the FreakyLinks team.
I do like how much music they're putting into these episodes of like most of the musicians. Because at the end of every episode, they're like, if you like the music in this episode, you should buy these albums. Like 1 out of 3 of these albums are ones I've heard of. The other 2, I just have no idea what they're talking about. Every time. Yeah. Every time. I'm like, 2, you didn't make it. Anyway, so that wraps that episode. Let's get into the next one, and then we'll maybe break down this all before we wrap up the show.
Let me say, before you say the name of the episode of episode 4, it should be called Tennessee Bigfoot, right? What is it called?
Oh, let's get into it.
It should be Tennessee Bigfoot.
Here's the IMDb summary for episode 4. Subject: coelacanth this.
Oh yeah, Tennessee Bigfoot's way better.
Derek, this is impossible.
That's what they said about the coelacanth.
What's that?
It's this fish that everybody thought was extinct, but it isn't. And it's about to be blown out of the water by this.
What, a pterodactyl, man?
A pteranodon, actually. They're much bigger.
Hold on, Derek. This whole Civil War thing could just be a hoax.
No, guys, Derek. Do the math. If you count backward in roughly 23 to 30-year chunks...
Wait, Mom's right. If you count back every 30 years, you end up during the Civil War, right? Am I right? Am I doing the math right?
It's close enough if you allow for cyclical variance.
What if this whole Thunderbird legend was based on some prehistoric throwback, all right? And it hibernates for 30 years. And then it comes out and it flies around, eats some people, and checks out new car models. And we can prove that by getting it on tape.
Derek suspects that a prehistoric creature has survived to this day, bracket, just like the prehistoric fish species coelacanth, and bracket, and is killing people in the woods near a conspiratorial small town. The locals and the sheriff refuse to help him.
Is that written by the same person who wrote the previous one?
It's got the same vibe, yeah.
Yeah, none of them were credited, so I'm not sure, but like the brackets in the middle of the explanation seem to be the case. They like to like explain the title to you.
Which, I appreciate that.
To be honest,
helpful.
Is very helpful.
Yeah.
What did we say was the fans called? Breakers, what they called?
Freakers?
The Whack Pack?
The Whack Packs. He's a real Whack Packer. Remember the Whack Packs. Whack Packer.
Is it too late to change dregs?
Yeah. Hey, Whack Packers. Anyway, that's the voice we use.
So we kind of return to a trope we haven't seen since the first episode, with Derek narrating the episode or recording a podcast.
I was going to say, is this sort of Carrie Bradshaw business like typical or just a one-off?
How many times now? 4 episodes?
Twice.
Twice, yeah.
They did it in one, and it felt like they just needed to fill out the pilot because they had to reshoot so much of it.
Oh, yeah.
This one feels a little more organic. It's just odd. It feels, every time I watch it, I'm just like, it is just like he's recording a podcast for his website. In a time where that was another thing.
I didn't mind this as
big
a
flash.
narrative device, as like, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. You won't believe why I've got this Band-Aid.
Well, yeah, he's a little beaten up, so you're like,
Yeah.
oh, something exciting happened.
Yeah, and he's wearing an undershirt.
He is.
And I think the point was like, isn't he sexy? But I was like, I don't know if he is.
He's so tough. His eyebrows a little scuffed up.
Was his eyebrows scuffed up?
His eyebrows scuffed up, but his shirt is crystal white.
He cleaned up. He had a little laundry day before he started this podcast. The episode starts with them driving back from a failed attempt to find the Tennessee Bigfoot, as previously mentioned. Mm-hmm. And it's Derek, it's Chloe, it's Jason, lands back home. And they come across a flipped over car in the road.
But my favorite part of this is that Chloe actually says one of my favorite line in all television shows. Hey, what am I doing here? Like it's the classic, like, you come back from commercial break and why are we doing this again? And why is that? Who's that person? Is it? I like that she actually says what the audience saying. Why would Chloe be there? She's adding nothing. Why is Jason there? Adding nothing.
That's not Jason's fault.
He's driving.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
Oh,
I wonder if did you
sorry.
Did you like this? Because when he starts telling the narrative, he's just like, we were driving down a country road, and then it cuts to show the car driving down the road, and then it stops. He's like, oh, wait, did I mention it was dark and stormy? And then it cuts back, and now it's pouring rain.
I didn't mind that.
I thought that might be something you would enjoy, maybe.
Yeah.
It's
Did you
kinda
not
cute.
like it?
No, I did. It was kind of a cute, like, meta-narrative.
I thought if you're going to do the voiceover, you might as well do stuff like that and play with it a little bit, because that feels like maybe a tone this show could have, because it hasn't landed on a tone yet, but I don't know if that's what they were going for.
I mean, it was certainly playful. I will say, this episode particularly, the last episode a bit too, there's a sense of fun to them that wasn't in the previous episodes. It's maybe not perfectly gelled, but at least they're like, oh, maybe this show is just fun. Maybe it's not a dark science fiction show. Maybe it's not a comedy either, but maybe it's just kind of like Scooby-Doo.
On a side note, I've been reading a little, like, interviews and stuff that the cast and crew were doing at the time, and it seems like the tone of all the interviews are very apologetic. And because the first couple episodes had aired, and like the Ethan Embry's like, oh, don't worry guys, like, it's not going to be dark and scary. Like, it's going to get a lot more fun. Wait till episode 4. Trust me, it's going to be more fun. And it's just like they just see cancellation coming, and they're just trying their best. Anyway, to your point.
Well, that I mean that's pretty much what happened. I think after the first 4 episodes, it was basically put on permanent hiatus, only to come back 4 months later.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a rough go probably when they were promoting this show. Writing was on the wall. Mm-hmm. In the road of this flipped over vehicle, they basically find an injured woman who's been injured, and she's trying to tell them that her boyfriend was dragged off by something, and they can't find the boyfriend, but they sort of bring her back into town, go to the local diner, and they're in...
And who's she played by?
I don't know.
Yeah, she looks familiar.
Erica Christensen. She's an actress. You'd recognize her.
She's fake Julia Stiles, is how I know
That's
her.
right.
Yeah.
That's how she refers to herself
Yeah.
too. When
And
people
you
are
can even tell on the YouTube quality content.
she comes to restaurants and like, who are you getting? Are you famous? She's like, yes, I'm fake Julia Stiles. I'm like, oh, your table's ready over there.
Thank you.
You know what? Didn't even notice. That's on me. But yeah, they bring her back to Owensmouth, Georgia, where the local sheriff kind of takes over the case. He informs them that he's found the boyfriend and that they should just get out of town. Please feel free to just leave our town.
He's running them out of town, but in the most polite possible
He's giving
way.
them such good directions of how to GTFO.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very funny because he tells them that he's very polite, but as soon as he does that, they're just like, well, now we're not leaving. Now we're going to stay. Except for Jason, who's like, can we please leave?
Guys, I don't want to investigate this rampant bear problem.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? They say it's a rampant bear problem.
I mean, throughout the episode, they're constantly referring to the bear problem. They're like, it's probably bears. Bears. It's a bears. I think there are bears.
It's some politician just ran on that. I'm going to stop all these bear problems. And they're like, just keep pushing the bears.
What I like is Chloe, upon hearing the name of the town, she's like, I recognize this town for some reason. And I thought it was because she had some history there. But what we find out is in some book she read, actually they call Lan, who's, I guess, back home. And they're like, hey, Lan, can you find this really obscure book on your shelf? Would you mind looking something up for me in about Owen's mouth. She's like, okay. It's like, says in 1973, a man had a psychotic break and said he saw an ancient evil forest god there. And I was like, how did you remember that?
She's
Chloe?
like, yeah, that was what I remember. That's right. It was that 1973 reference.
It's such a weird pull for her to be.
Well,
like,
you can remember the exact sort of vaguely titled psychology book that it's in, but you don't remember that story.
That's one of the character traits
It's
we haven't learned from Chloe yet, that she also has total recall.
except for that story.
Yeah, except for that
Which
story.
was nothing. It was just a man who had a psychotic break and saw a forest god.
But this is also the point where in the last episode she was really teasing Lan that she was in love with Derek. In this episode, she's teasing Derek that Lan's in love with her. It's as if she is a writer of the show who's trying to convince the audience that this is something they should be invested in.
Stay tuned, guys. There's going to be a love triangle.
Yeah,
I
it's like,
swear.
no one cares. Let's see this Tennessee Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's what I'm in it for.
Yeah.
I don't care about Lan.
You don't want to see if Lan gets love?
No, I don't care.
We go into that, I guess the gimmick they do on the show where now it's interview footage. We interview a biker at a gas station, a kid on a little bicycle, some welder, and they all kind of give their theories to what's going on in the woods that could have attacked this man.
Yeah,
Oh,
what
and the
were
very
they?
chatty waitress.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right. Yeah,
some very-
who has a fun little pig hat.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I don't
assume
know
they
where
s-
she works.
You
but
assume they serve pig there, right?
I hope so.
It's not just something like a
Just
punishment.
really
Hey,
demeaning uniforms.
Yeah, like, you know what you did wrong again? You have to wear the piggy hat, piggy. And she's like, oh, not the piggy hat.
They're punishing her because she clearly says, she's like, I'm not going to be a waitress. I'm a filmmaker.
She's a bear denier.
She's better than I. She also says, I really like that movie, The Blair Witch Project. I think I'm going to make it later.
Oh, that's so... They're the people that were involved in the show. So it's just this painful reference.
Wah,
There's a
wah.
winking nod. I don't know if you noticed on the website. There's quite a bit of writing about how much Derek hates the Blair Witch Project on the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they really find it very funny to reference it. At any rate, what they kind of find out of the possible theories or what's going on in the woods are... hold on, I wrote them down and I've lost them here.
Place your bets now, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time that we will place our bets.
It is bears, it is haunted, and it's the boyfriend was a drunk.
Oh, that's right. They really push on this poor guy that, like, he's just a drunk. And they even show footage of, like, the poor guy, he can't even have a drink without people videotaping it and then using that as evidence.
Like he's just drinking and driving everywhere. It's his own fault this happened. I mean, the waitress was at this homecoming party they were at. She taped it. That's kind of why they knew where they were. But I guess the boyfriend and the girlfriend decided they were going to stay in the woods that night and camp, and like that's so she's like, I know where they were. I'll draw a map on my pig hat so you can get there. I also like that she's like, she meets Derek for 2 seconds. She's like, do you want to come by later and watch some of the movies I've made? Because you're very handsome and I wish you'd come. And I was just like, where's this coming from?
He's the handsome lead that all the ladies love.
He just has to like show up with his wild eyes, and like every woman is throwing those eyes.
It's why that was his 3-layered shirts.
So many layers. It's the challenge, getting all those layers
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, this will take a while.
But yes, they head out to the woods where this campsite was, and they find a very trashed campsite and hear the sound of an alarm going off on a wristwatch. And they find that watch hanging from a severed hand on a tree.
Yeah, that was something.
This is the point I realized that the show purchased one really good SFX arm and will probably continue to use it in all episodes because I'm pretty sure that was Bink's hand.
Oh,
The previous
you might be
episode.
right.
And I was like, that's smart. Just show like one limb. And now in this episode, they keep showing the same one limb over and over and over
Oh,
again.
that's good.
Yeah.
That is
Smart.
good. That is good.
Something we need to look for in episode 5 and 6. Will there be the same left hand?
Yeah.
Will this left hand reappear? They spent all this money. Gotta get your money's worth.
It'd just have nail polish on it, and they'll be like, no, the lady's hand.
Very girthy lady's hand.
Put some fur on it. Now it's a gorilla hand.
Was that Girthy Berthy? Was that her hand there? Girthy Berthy. It's the best I came up with.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Bink's sister.
Poor Girthy Berthy. She's the one who's wearing that hat.
While they're in the woods, they bump into John Lockhart. He kind of stops them with his shotgun and kind of also wants to sort of chase them out of the woods. It's not safe here for them, and he's played by character actor Ron Canada.
Yeah, and he's the best character in this episode, I thought.
I mean, he's very watchable.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to do. I don't know if best character. He didn't have a lot to do because he shows up, tells them they should probably go. The sheriff shows up to take they call the sheriff and they're like, well, here, take this arm. And they're like, Sheriff, now do you believe that something happened here? He's like, yeah, bears. I believe bears happened here. Please leave my town.
Yeah.
And they kind of end on again. They're like, we don't want you here. Please get to this city. And Derek's just like, you know what? I didn't get a chance to poke that arm enough.
I know, that was this whole scene. My note was, I'd also arrest them for this, because the next scene is they go to a funeral home.
Yeah.
And Jason plays a character at the funeral home. Did you catch the name of that character?
The name? No.
His undercover name is John Shaft.
I also didn't catch that.
He's crying about his recently deceased grandmother, and Derek uses him that as a distraction to the extremely creepy funeral home owner.
Yeah.
Shot like from underneath, like up at him, so he looks like the Crypt Keeper or something.
The basic point of it is, wouldn't it be creepy if you worked in a funeral home? You'd be this creep. It's like, no, you'd be a normal person.
This guy looks like a mole person.
Yeah, this guy does look like a mole person.
But the whole point is, while Jason's distracting him by crying, Derek goes into the morgue and like looks through dead bodies.
He's poking
and then
around.
He literally pokes around, and then actually takes the hand out of the bag.
It was
and for no reason.
This is all done like through a POV shot. Like this is all in that kind of found footage shot of it. So he only has one hand to do it. So he's trying to open this Ziploc bag with one hand. It's the most so it's very awkward watching him flop around. The arms just flopping everywhere. He's trying to pull it out, and he finally gets it out, and he just shoves the camera into the wound.
And then so he can send the footage to poor Lan, who that's what she gets to deal with all the time. And I don't know if you could just show footage to someone and be like, what kind of animal bit this thing off? I don't know if it works that way.
I feel like with the technology they're currently working with on other aspects of their life, not really there yet in terms of forensic science. Just guessing.
I will say, though, I very much enjoyed them setting up a wireless network, like a Wi-Fi hotspot with their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did not think that was possible, but they like plug the laptop into a cell phone and then beam the image of the bear wound to Lan across the country. And I was like, that's some good use of technology.
Whatever works, right?
I'm very, very ahead of its time.
Making me really, really appreciate modern day, because so much of this episode could have just been taken care of on an iPhone.
That is true. That is true. We kind of get a scene here where Lan is, given the responsibility of trying to find out whether this is a bear attack by taking this wound to some guy at a university.
This is the second time they've done this. Remember they did the expert in episode 1 or 2?
There was a piano expert who dropped by. They didn't name him. He's just there suddenly. He's just like, that's a pastiche of every piece of music that's ever been written.
Yeah. And then this guy's like, yeah, I could look into the bite marks. Also, I'm going to hit on you nonstop to pour. And
again.
Yeah, but again, it's just, and what I like is that he just keeps commenting how much better she looks than what she looked like before.
It's such a neg.
If there's one thing one person wants to hear is how ugly they used to be.
Well, what's weird? No.
She took off her glasses.
What's crazy is in the first episode, she had a very different look with glasses.
Yeah.
So they're commenting on a character redesign from the pilot. It's bizarre. Like I've never seen this show has done it a couple times. Where they're like, let's comment on something we did earlier that we've walked away from.
It's the equivalent of they recast someone for the pilot and they'd be like, didn't you look different before? Like, no, you don't have to call attention to it. No, but they've decided to.
I mean, this guy really wants a date with Lan, and he's like, he knows she likes Derek, and he's just like, listen, what does he have that I don't? I have a job. He just has tattoos. Like, he's really, really trying to do something to Derek to get her. Like, he's like, I'm gainfully employed. Date me.
But regardless, he's like, yeah, I'll take this arm and figure out all the information for Derek.
I have a question though. What are Derek's tattoos? Have we seen a single tattoo on him?
No, he wears too many shirts.
I was trying to think. I'm like, he doesn't strike me as a particularly tattooed man so far.
I think it'll be a plot line later.
A cool tattoo comes to life, like that X-Files episode.
Exactly.
Ooh, place your bets. What's the tat?
It's the Tasmanian Devil.
Oh yeah, I thought it was just gonna be a barbed wire tattoo.
No, I think Taz is probably much better.
Anyway, well, that's kind of happening. They do their own little bit of a research sequence where Chloe goes off to the public library and discovers that Lockhart guy who's wielding that shotgun, he had a son who went missing 30 years ago. And it seems like these attacks in the forest are cyclical every 30 years. Mysteries.
I get the excitement
you guys,
of all of us.
You guys are very excited.
Yeah, every 30 years. That's good. Interesting.
So they take a drive out to visit Lockhart to kind of maybe see if they can get some information about what happened to his son. And we go back to kind of that handheld POV camera shots, and they're hiding. I don't know why they're hiding from them. He pulls up and they're like, hide. All right, now let's walk over and talk to him. So they start walking toward him, and Lockhart leans out his car. He's just like, hey, don't look behind you. And Jason swings around with the camera, and there is a bear behind them. A giant bear.
There is a bear problem.
Yeah. Which was weird. That's weird that there is a bear problem.
There is a bear problem. It's accurate. The problem is bears.
Yeah.
The freaky link is bears. It's crazy because they're cutting kind of camera swipes to this bear chasing them and them running toward him. And I guess Lockhart shoots the bear.
Yeah.
Because we cut from that to them drinking moonshine to calm their nerves in his barn.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's just a giant dead bear out in the parking garage.
Don't worry, Lockhart will get to that later. I'll make a little fur coat out of it. It'll be great.
He didn't kill it. He just wounded it. It's just laying out there, like,
Moaning.
moaning,
Waiting.
just like slowly
Oh.
dragging itself across his property. It's awful. You can hear it in the background. That's a good. Do your bear. That's good. That's awesome.
That's the best
That's
bear.
the
I
best
think.
one. Yeah.
Lockhart, he kind of gives them his own theory about what's happened. He pulls a tarp off of a totem pole he's got in his barn, and he points to the top where he's like, "You see that on top of this totem pole? That's the Thunderbird. That's what's killing people. A giant Thunderbird, and I'm gonna get it."
He says it's a Native American legend and also an ancient evil, which is, I think, the second time we've had an ancient evil.
I mean, gotta have some ancient evils in here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing that he's not right either. So.
Yeah. Well, he's just he stole a totem pole from somewhere, and then he's just put together the theory, I think.
And I mean, I might be wrong, and I'm not an expert at this. I thought totem poles were more of like a coastal thing, like on the West Coast with like the Haida Gwaii and stuff. I thought that was where, like, not necessarily in the Appalachian Mountains.
So this brings me to an inconsistency that is just about to unfold. Is we've already figured out that every 30 years these attacks happen.
Yeah.
But then at some point someone mentions migration patterns of the Thunderbird. This is
Right.
maybe later. Sorry, 5 minutes.
I mean,
spoilers,
yeah,
but-
we're getting into it.
yeah. Anyways, I have questions. But the totem pole again. I thought that was West Coast.
I feel like he stole it from a museum, and he just like this is what it is.
Yeah. How did he get this? Also, would they not all be thinking, yeah, it's just bears at this point? Having
Well, there
been
is that
attacked?
bear just
dragging
Literally
itself
did attack
around.
them.
Yeah.
He absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Like-
dragging its wounded body across, just
Case
leaving a big old
closed.
blood smear. Yeah, case closed.
But Lockhart has a plan for the Thunderbird. He's got some dynamite, and he's going to feed it to the Thunderbird. This is his
Yeah.
whole plan. Which I was like, "Ooh, Chekhov's dynamite. Here we go."
There's worse plans.
It's true. They get a call from Lan kind of at the end of this, and Lan comes back with some information from her bear guy. Not a bear bite. It resembles more a pelican biting through a fish. So this bird theory is really starting to pan out. But this is the moment where Derek has a sudden wave of inspiration, and we finally see why he's the leader of FreakyLinks.
Yeah, so they essentially go chumming, right? Is what you would refer to this as?
Well, what happens is he says, as any freaker would know, this reminds me of a very particular photograph.
Yeah, right.
And he has Lan basically email them the photograph, a Civil War photograph, men in uniforms in the Civil War, standing over top of it's not a pterodactyl, it's a pteranodon that was apparently shot back in the Civil War.
Yeah, it wasn't, but it's apparently, because I think all of us looked it up after, and this is one of those
It's a popular
urban legend.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the photo, you're like, oh yeah, that's not real.
No.
Although people, as I was saying earlier, I read one website and the guy's point was, fact, it's true. so point him.
But yes, Derek remembers this from his previous research, that perhaps these pteranodons have lived to modern day, and they go get some deli meat, and they go chumming. They drive around in their car, throwing deli meat out the window, hoping to attract this pteranodon. They do.
Yeah.
It attacks their car.
That always works.
That's what you get for throwing hot dogs out your window for a couple miles.
I mean, I don't know what the plan was, because like basically they're like, oh, it worked. It's attacking us. Oh, no, it's attacking us.
We didn't think this through.
But they get attacked. They drive out and find the sheriff, and they're like, Sheriff, we figured it out. It's not bears. It's this flying monster. And then the sheriff's like, it's probably bears still, but how about this? How about you just leave my town like I've asked you repeatedly, and I will deal with this. As I've told you, as the law enforcement professional, I swear to you, I am trying to handle this. Please leave my town. I love the sheriff. He's so reasonable all the time. He's just like, listen, I don't want to tell you what it is. You get the sense he probably knows what's going on. He's just like, I'm trying to take care of it. You're not helping me.
They never really do explain why the sheriff and I'm assuming the government is hiding this. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the idea is this basic idea of maybe the like mid to late 90s. It's just like everything was a conspiracy, and there's always these people that are controlling everything. But I was like, but why?
I got the sense the sheriff, and maybe you have a different idea, Joe, but I got the sense the sheriff wasn't so much covering up as he just was like trying to protect people. He's just like, I just want everyone off the streets. I know this happens every 30 years. He actually says it some ways. He's just like, I just need to keep everyone safe for this week.
Right, because it's someone else's problem.
And in 30 years, someone else can deal with it.
Yeah. He says, what, I have a town full of beer drinkers whose sole mission is to go bear hunting now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
That sounds like a nightmare.
He did seem like he was reasonably just trying to protect people.
Yeah.
Less than like cover it up maybe, but
Right.
He goes and visits Lockhart to chat with him a bit, which is a weird scene because the first time we ever like leave the FreakyLinks crew and kind of see an interaction between two characters. But he talks to Lockhart and he says something about like they're deep, dark monsters or something, which triggers something in Lockhart where he's just like, oh, the monster. It must be in caves under the ground. And that sort of sends Lockhart off on his mission. And we cut back to Derek and the FreakyLinks crew. And they also have a similar moment where they're like, caves. We got to go find some caves.
Yeah.
It was an odd thing for them not to all be together when they figure it out. But I guess what it is Land digs up some old writing from the Civil War where it's just like, yeah, we found that monster in a cave. And they're like, all right, well, let's go find a cave. And we kind of get them driving out to the old campsite where they found the body originally. And somehow Derek gets lost in the first, like,
he just takes off.
He just runs away and leaves
Yeah.
them. And I was just like, could you not have the rest of the characters in this scene? I don't entirely, like, he leaves Jason and Chloe behind because you wouldn't want Jason to be involved in anything.
Doesn't even say like, I just can't wait. I can't wait for them.
He like jumps into the car and just like runs into the forest.
Yeah. If ever there was an episode where you could tell every single actor had a different schedule, this was it.
Right.
Like, they filmed it over 6 months.
Right.
But we kind of get into this sort of the final sequence of the show where it's all handheld again. Derek goes in the cave. He finds Lockhart. Lockhart's been injured, but he's just like, I found her and I'm gonna get her now. And he like lights a stick of dynamite.
Spot on, by the way. Spot
Yeah,
on.
that's his Australian accent. And like the cave's covered in human bones. And then Derek's attacked by the pteranodon. It like grabs him, but because it's in handheld, all we ever kind of see are like flapping wings and like we never really get a full shot of it. Derek seems to be dragged through the tunnel and is knocked unconscious. The sheriff arrives and saves Derek, and as he's dragging him out of the cave, the camera falls down and we just see like boxes of dynamite are on fire. Like apparently there's just so much dynamite in this cave. Lockhart's really come to finish the job. And we just cut back to a wide shot and like a huge explosion happens. And I guess what we kind of are supposed to infer from all of this, I guess, is Lockhart got in there, set his dynamite off. The sheriff managed to get there in time to save Derek. And in fact, Derek will ask, like, what happened to Lockhart? He's like, oh, I found him too, but he was already dead, so I left his body in there.
Yeah, long gone.
And what I really like though is as he's been saved, the sheriff saves Derek, pulls him out of his cave, and Derek's like so surprised that this man who's stymieing his investigation the whole time saved him. He's like, I can't believe you saved me. And the sheriff's just like, literally all I've been trying to do is save you. Like he says, he's like, that's all I've been trying to do is save you. Like, what do you mean you're surprised I saved you? It was a nice like turn of that like evil small town sheriff.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm doing my job. I'm trying to protect people.
And that's another one for the case files.
It's true. It all wraps up and basically ends with Derek going to sit on his couch back home, and he smells his pillow, and he's like smells Lance's perfume on it. He's just like, hey, maybe something could happen between us. Maybe this love story can blossom. Wrap up this freaky link with a love story.
Yeah, because no one cares.
But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the two episodes. A mole people, a flying lizard. Two great episodes. Two great freaky links to get into.
I had a great time.
While painting.
Well, painting. And then rewatching later to be like, what?
Question though, what
Sure.
what color did you choose?
For my room. Snow White
Nice.
is 3 of the walls. And then, of course, because it's not my property, and I have to really think about how much painting I want to do in the future, one really, really dark green wall.
Nice.
Yeah. It's looking okay. I probably could have done with another coat, but I'm going to call it a faux suede finish and leave it. 'cause
There's
I'm
always
tired.
more episodes of Freaky Links.
Yeah.
Your whole apartment painted.
Do some neighbors' apartments. It's all good.
Well, I mean, we can get to the ratings soon, but what did you think of the show, really, Joe? Like, how did you feel about it after having like kind of watched it a couple of times apparently, and then chatted about it now for like an hour and a half?
I mean, such a snapshot of a very specific time for me that I live through. Like
Yeah.
I mean, not specifically bear hunting or anything like that. But they
Don't
like,
sell yourself short.
Yeah,
You did
just
deal with
wa-
those mole people, though.
And you wounded a couple bears and just left them to
I
die.
mean, I've been through some shit. Yeah. But like just the when he's recording his blog post and he has Microsoft Paint open in the background. I don't know if anyone else noticed
I didn't
that.
notice that.
Yeah, he's editing the photo of the Civil War. And it's in Microsoft Paint.
Wonderful.
It also has the giant flashing record sign. I'm like, great. I wondered, like, did he even have like pinball on that?
It is a real snapshot of a particular time in computers and internet. Yeah.
What would be great is if they did a shot where they just kept pulling out, and then you see that none of his stuff's plugged in. He's
Yep.
just insane the whole time. His screen's just blank.
He just
hasn't-
talks to his computer
Yeah.
all day and smells his pillows. They don't smell like a girl. They just smell like him.
Oh, cool.
smell like sadness and farts.
I mean, having just come off the kind of the pilot episodes, which we didn't talk too much about, but the pilot episode and the second episode were pretty uneven, and one of them was actually quite bad.
Yeah.
These ones were a step up for sure. Like I felt like, oh, maybe this show isn't as terrible as it could be. Like it's not a perfect show by any means, but certainly at least was finding a tone that was a little more on the fun side.
Yeah.
And I did like, one thing I did like is I never quite knew what the monster was going to be at the end. Like I was just like, oh, okay, it could be anything really. And in some ways that's kind of fun. I'm just like, all right, sure, whatever weird thing. It did feel not like an X-Files episode where they always kind of need a scientific explanation in an X-Files episode. These things were like, it could be anything. Like it literally could be an alligator. Who cares? Like,
Yeah. We got it on camera.
But I
Moving
think
on.
part of that though is there's so much setup in this show that they always only have about 5 minutes of action or a reveal of stuff, and I think it's purposely done that way. There's a lot of, like you said, like red herrings, and they're kind of, it's the journey. It's not the most interesting sort of journey of finding things out, but it always kind of goes in a weird direction at some point. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming because that seems odd. And that's, I guess, a bonus.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely thought it was a step up from the previous two episodes.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, I liked the pterodactyl episode way better.
Well, let's rate it then. I mean, let's start with subject Edith Keeler Must Die, the Mole People episode. We usually rate things on kind of the IMDb 10-star scale, so like somewhere between 1 and 10, and you can do 0.5s if you want to. That's totally fine. But how do you feel about that first episode?
In the grand scheme of television or this show?
It's usually we base it on kind of like science fiction TV can be bad, but you can still enjoy it. Like I think this is more of like for you, like what was your enjoyment level when you watched it? Where you're like, that was not a bad Saturday afternoon, or like, oh, I can't believe I had to watch that for even 5 minutes, kind of thing.
Let's give that a 6.
6, eh?
Solid 6.
What about you, Jordan? How do you feel about Mole People?
5.5.
5.5.
Which,
Wow.
by the way, I think is my highest score I've given on this show.
I think it's a 6.5 for me.
I think you're wrong.
I had a fun time. I actually thought
Did
it was
you?
a fun episode. It was like it was still obviously a bit of a mess, but I don't think 6.5 is saying it's artwork. It's just like I'm like,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
it's like
It's not a waste of time.
it was far more enjoyable than the first two, and it was like just weird enough and interesting enough to kind of like hold my attention. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
All right.
And what about the second episode? Subject this something like that. Oh, hard to pronounce.
In relation to my last rating, I'm going to give this one a 7.
7, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Jordan.
As tradition, I'm going to go 0.5 lower, 6.5. It was my favorite episode so far.
Oh, great. Sorry, I thought you meant 0.5 lower than your last
No,
rating.
no, lower than
It's like
Joe's.
Price is Right rules.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
keep underbidding me.
You know what? I think I'm going to give it... I think it's a 7 for me, too. I think it wasn't a perfect episode, but like I was really excited when it was a flying dinosaur at the end. I was like, this is fun.
Did not see that
This is
coming
a fun
at
time.
all. Yeah.
This is a very fun time. And because last week's episodes were so bad, and we are technically... It's only a 13-episode series, so we're a quarter of the way through the show. Joe, it means we might have to take the escape pod. If the show falls below a 5.0 average, we can kind of bail out of the series early,
Oh.
just because Jordan can't sit through.
It's not just me. It's one of the rules. It's one of the official rules.
You got to establish boundaries.
Yeah,
like, right
exactly.
from the bat.
So I have to pull up the continue and drag computer here.
I don't think we're taking it.
Beep, boop, beep, boop.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, that's the sound of it. And we're gonna see if we're firing up the old escape pod. I honestly think we're going to.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You don't think the scores are low enough
No, lower than a 5?
after last week?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh my god. Well, let's find out. Let me punch these numbers in.
Okay, hold on. Let me. I'll blow some dust off the machine. That's some money there, right there in the sound effects. Lovely.
The numbers are in. The series average currently 4.95.
Oh, and we're out.
So I don't think we're gonna watch anymore. I'm honestly very disappointed because next episode was this Desert Squid episode.
Well, we have to wrap. Are we gonna watch? Here's the thing. We're gonna wrap up with one more episode, right? Is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I think we'll have to watch the last one though.
So why don't we do this just for you? Why don't we watch Squid Boy and last episode?
All right, we'll watch the Desert Squid.
Yeah, why don't we do
I
that?
just want to see what the Desert Squid's all about.
I know.
I saw that coming up on my YouTube queue, and I was like, well, maybe.
Something about the idea of a Desert Squid I'm very excited about.
So, and it doesn't matter because these apparently are all aired out of order too. And apparently, it was one of those things where like fans were like, "That's what ruined the show." I was like, "No, it wasn't. It was the show is not good. That's what ruined it."
That show was limping
It's not
towards
like
the
oh,
end.
you put episode 4 instead of 1. Who cares? They're both bad.
All right then. Well, that settles it.
It's to stop the anger.
So what? They're both bad.
Yeah.
That settles it, I guess. So we'll be back next week for a final episode of Freaky Links, where I'll get my Desert Squid, and then we'll get the last episode.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to something new after that. But sorry, Freaky Links, but you just barely couldn't make it. And you know what? It is my fault because I related those first 2 episodes so badly.
Mm-hmm.
They were bad episodes, so they deserved it. So Freaky Links, you're getting what's coming to you. In the meantime, Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure. Hopefully these weren't too terrible. I'm glad you got some work done while you got to watch them.
It was a productive week, yeah.
And listener, if you want to complain about how quickly we're leaving Freaky Links, keep it to yourself.
Literally no one's going to complain about that.
But you can email us at continuingdrag@gmail.com. And this week we'll probably have some glimpse of a pterodactyl on social media. Mole person. Binks eating face. Someone eating a rat. Someone eating a rat, maybe.
The left arm you have to watch out for in future episodes.
Oh, yes, this left arm.
If the arm makes it into the Desert Squid episode, will you continue just for the sake of research?
Just to watch for more arms.
The answer is no.
Jordan's head is shaking.
No.
Not going to happen, apparently. Yeah, you can follow us at Continuing Drag on Twitter and Instagram. And I guess that about wraps it up. So, listener, thanks for joining us. And Jordan, I'll see you next week.
See you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick-Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.